presenting a very critical angle on social entrepreneurship. Dr. Sunil is a senior lecturer at Leeds Business School, UK, and an expert in technology commercialization. Dr. Sunil has spent the past 10 years evangelizing social and eco-innovation entrepreneurship through his teaching, mentoring, consulting, and research activities. A very good afternoon to you, Dr. Sunil. I welcome you on behalf of Symbiosis Center for Management Studies, Pune, India. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Sushil. Thank you. I can see. I can see that there are. Apologies. There's a calendar. Let's pop up. Okay. Thanks, Dr. Sushil. It's a real pleasure to be back, though virtually. I was there 2 years ago in 2018. I was there in SCMS. I almost spent, I think, 2 weeks there. So it was a very wonderful experience then. And I was actually going to propose that I come either this year or next year, but unfortunately, of course, we've had the COVID issue, but nonetheless, it's really wonderful to connect with the SEMS students online. So it's a real pleasure. Thank you. Okay. So what I'm going to say, Sushil, is this is what I plan to do is. I'll make the presentation. I'll hopefully have a short lecture, like 20-25 minutes. And then I want to have some real critical discussions with students. So if students can put their questions in the chat window rather than a discussion so that I can actually pick up on the questions, that would be really fabulous. Okay.
Got that, sir. So we'll proceed accordingly. And you may please begin with your presentation.
Sure. Okay. So I'm just going to share that. I'm going to switch off my video just to conserve bandwidth now that everyone's seen me almost. But I'll come back after the presentation. Okay.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Can you see my PowerPoint, Sushil? I'll of course expand it.
It might take another second. Yes, sir. We have already started.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay. Right. Fabulous. So what I want to do actually is, a lot of B schools these days teach entrepreneurship, and a lot of business schools do teach about business planning. There's a lot these days around design thinking, for example. I think every business school has perhaps caught on the bandwagon of design thinking. How do you do prototyping for your business? There's a lot around lean business thinking, business model canvas. So there's so many tools that have been made available for teaching entrepreneurship. So gone are those days when people thought entrepreneurs are born. So I think today, perhaps most people agree that, I would say 99% people agree that entrepreneurs can be made. Otherwise, big business schools wouldn't have been teaching entrepreneurship. But in all this debate around entrepreneurship, many solutions to a lot of the problems have remained quite elusive. So, okay, of course, microfinance has changed how investment in small businesses is perceived, but I'm guessing that that's the only big change, that systemic change that perhaps the world has seen, and there are lots of other areas, health and education, where a lot of systemic changes are needed, and that's where entrepreneurs are truly needed, but it's not happening. So what I want to therefore do today is take a critical look at entrepreneurship. What is really entrepreneurship? What is really entrepreneurship capable of? And actually, is entrepreneurship positive, negative? Is it too capitalistic? Is it going to solve all our sustainability problems, social problems? We look at those issues and whether entrepreneurship is the right strategy for a lot of society's problems. Okay. I saw this article just last week, actually, maybe 2 weeks ago in Business Week. It's an interesting one, and it says, Sushil, I just want to check whether you can still hear me and whether you've not lost me.
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so I'll carry on. Okay. So I saw this interesting article, and it says it's time to reclaim the meaning of the word entrepreneur. Interesting article, actually. And the issue is that COVID issue, particularly, we are all in the COVID times, and the COVID issue has shown that a lot of small businesses are closing or facing bankruptcy or closure in the future. Okay. But now is the time, perhaps, because COVID is closing down a lot of businesses. Perhaps other opportunities are going to pop up after COVID ends, whenever it ends. But now is the time to think, because what COVID has shown is that we live in a very unequal world. There is inequality in education. Of course, in the UK, what has happened is the government has come in as a savior, and it has paid for employees who've been furloughed for some time. But it has shown to an extent that we live in a very unequal world, and maybe we need entrepreneurship more to create more equitable opportunities. Okay? But there is an issue, and what is the issue? And I think what I was saying earlier was a lot of business schools teach business model canvas. We have guest lecturers who are perhaps very wealthy, and successful entrepreneurs. We have, we might invite someone from a Silicon Valley kind of hub, to come and give a guest lecture. So what does that mean? That means that entrepreneurship is romanticized, as something high profile, as something charismatic young people do. They found these tech startups, and then they go and disrupt the entire world. And in the process, what do? In the process, we create a new type of capitalistic celebrity hero. I'm not trying to trash capitalism or anything like that here. I want to have a balanced debate about whether capitalism is accommodating of social change or no, and I will come to that debate later on. But Elon Musk is one of those celebrity heroes. I'm sure everyone will agree with that. And as a result, what has happened is it has shown again that inequality. What inequality does this romanticization of entrepreneurship show? It says that the young millennials, particularly, many of them, though many of them may carry entrepreneurial ambitions, if there are only very few who are going to be really successful, least likely that most will become entrepreneurs or will become highly successful entrepreneurs. And this brings to the point the whole capitalistic notion of zero-sum competition. And scholars in the past have written a lot of things. Economists have argued about it, and they say, look, it's a zero-sum competition. Most entrepreneurs, most startups are going to go down because they're grossly inefficient. So some will win and disrupt new markets, and they will scale. And when they scale, they'll create loads of jobs. So it's a zero-sum game, basically. And what is happening even in the venture capitalist angle is, in the venture capitalist world, is the venture capital money, money that goes into tech startups is growing. It has grown in the last years, but very few checks are returned. It's compared to 1 or 2 decades ago, fewer checks are written, and these checks go to the superstar entrepreneurs, superstar startups, tech startups from Silicon Valley or maybe perhaps from Bangalore and in India as well. Interesting, but there is one more inequality here. And what is that another inequality? And that another inequality is that very less venture capital funding actually goes to women. And even in the country I live, UK, or or Western countries like US, very little of this venture capital funding actually goes to minority startups. Okay, so what will happen as a result is many will become self-employed, or start alone because of necessity, which is not bad. It's not because um, the COVID time is going to force a lot of people into self-employment. I'm pretty sure of that after all this ends, and there'll be loads of startups. So they will find out opportunities, but they may not find out opportunities because they're being encouraged by Silicon Valley entrepreneurs and Silicon Valley venture capitalists. It's because of necessity, but which is all not bad. But we have to find, because they're not going to get money from venture capitalists. We have to find a way of supporting women entrepreneurs, minority entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs from economically underprivileged backgrounds. How do we do that? I think that's a big question on everyone's mind. And some of the suggestions are that perhaps we need more education. And just yesterday, I've actually received a WhatsApp link from one of my friends saying, okay, there is a whole there's an organization which is supporting BAME girls. BAME is Black and minority ethnic girls in the UK, to actually do tech startups. These are for teens, 16 to 17-year-old teens. That's the program, and it's for girls in the BME community to do a tech startup using AI and whatever machine learning or whatever it is. Okay, so what is that pointing out to? And that's simply pointing out to skill development, talent development. We need more education. And yes, we need more education. But I again go back to the point that do not be lured by wealthy guest lecturers, okay, who are clapping for credit. And this ignores a lot of everyday businesses. My own experience, I teach entrepreneurship here at Leeds Beckett University. I do a little bit of business planning. I do a little bit, and I show my students how to gain investment. But a lot of my teaching actually circulates around entrepreneurship in a challenging global environment. And we look at critical issues like healthcare, education, energy and environment. These are some of the issues we look at. And what I try and do is actually raise that global awareness among students. And I actually try and support them by connecting them with some real businesses, not just talking about unicorn businesses in my classroom. And a lot of the students in my classroom, in the first 1-2 years of their undergraduate education, they've learned about unicorn businesses. And they're quite surprised that, oh, okay, it's not all about unicorn businesses, businesses that are billion-dollar businesses. And I think there's a lot of need for education that, these unicorn businesses are not everything, and there are other real businesses out there as well. So education needs to be multifaceted. It's not just about starting up a cool tech startup, and I think there's a lot of app craze these days. And I say, there is life even in lifestyle businesses, as long as they're generating some sort of social benefit to the local communities. So, and I think that's quite important thinking. It's not all about Silicon Valley. It's not all about tech startups. Having said that, there is a notion that entrepreneurs are a rare visionary breed who uniquely deserve this success. Is that always true? I mean, I'm not pretty sure about that. And you know what? We've got social media these days. And social media, what has it done is it has propagated the democratic values, values of egalitarianism and participation, right? So one would therefore think that, look, we live in a very democratic world where everyone should have access to opportunities. And what that therefore means is entrepreneurship should be based on merit. It should be meritocratic, where innovative entrepreneurs come and perhaps disrupt old industries and bring social change, right? But if technology is truly game changing, then this is my question, and this is where I'm thinking critically, is why do we have commodification of personal data, personal info? And not many are questioned about it. I mean, of course, there was a bit of rant about Facebook and Cambridge Analytica a few years ago, and all that seems to have disappeared in the thin air. So there is still a lot of elements of old-fashioned capitalism, lobbying, still present very much. And on top of that, I think, as I was saying earlier, there is a very limited view of what entrepreneurship really is. And what is really interesting, I mean, this is really, really interesting, is venture capitalists actually invest. This has been explored a lot. Venture capitalists invest in founders especially in Silicon Valley, who are white, male, remember that thing, male, they invest largely in males under 30, has no social life, and is probably a Harvard or a Stanford dropout. Okay. So there's a strong male notion of entrepreneurship, male gendered notion of entrepreneurship, which involves control, competition, rationality, dominance. And what is therefore happening is female entrepreneurs are ignored. Most words are male gendered as well in the entrepreneurial literature, things like self-reliant, assertive, forceful, risk-taking, okay, leader, competitive, ambitious. So there is a huge gender bias, I think, in the world of entrepreneurship. And not just that, it just doesn't stop there. You want to be a tech entrepreneur, then you need more expensive devices. Even if you were to start, even if you're a college dropout and started to, want to start or found a tech business from your home, from your bedroom, you need loads of expensive devices. You need to try, and then you need to travel to conferences and work on personal tech projects, and you need time for that. Your mom and dad's bank then has to come and help you out, right? So you need free time, you need wealth. You can't, even if you want to be a tech entrepreneur, not everyone is going to be able to afford all the tech devices and gadgets to work on their personal projects. So there is also a lot of bias. There's a little bit of digital elitism in the tech startup world these days. So there's the gender issue, and there's also the income, the economic inequality issue over here. But what is really interesting is this, and this is really interesting, okay, is many businesses owned by women actually tend to perform better because women are very conservative with money, they're really careful with money, and it's very unfortunate that there are very few women at the upper echelons of technology. And women in technology, I mean, they may work in software companies like Infosys or whatever, but largely they work in marketing, public relations, and even if they work in the tech side, project management, event planning, could be graphic design, all lower status jobs compared to the developers, the engineers, the venture capitalists, celebrity entrepreneurs, right? Okay, so there is a problem there. Okay. And therefore, I really feel that to say Silicon Valley entrepreneurs are world changing is very disingenuous. You know what? There are loads of healthcare workers, school teachers who are also world changing and bringing about a social change. So what is therefore happening is there is a sort of digital elitism, and it idealizes better class of rich people to evangelize philanthropy, and the startup tech culture basically. And I've been told many times that if you wanted to change the world, you need to become rich first, become like Bill Gates, and then change the world. Then you'll have the money and you can do philanthropy. And again, that points to digital elitism. You have to have a tech startup. How do you actually become a tech? How do you actually grow a tech startup without having the appropriate means? And when there is a bit of bias towards a certain class of people to become entrepreneurs. So I don't think, therefore, I think this is a bit disingenuous, and this is my personal feeling again, is that I don't think a tech startup kind of world is the way to solve most of the world's problems either, because of that reason. So I think there is a bit of nepotism. Not bit, there's a lot of nepotism. I must correct my words. There is a lot of nepotism there. So does entrepreneurship always lead to more inequality? Well, if you think about WhatsApp, how much was it sold to Facebook for? $19 billion. Many countries are poorer than $19 billion actually. So that made the founders of WhatsApp people very wealthy compared to their next door neighbors, basically. And this is so entrepreneurship. It rewards smart and risk-tolerant investors with wildly above market returns. Basically, 19 billion for Facebook, for WhatsApp, is a lot of money. And these people who founded, I mean, of course, maybe Facebook had a strategy because they wanted to acquire WhatsApp to to stop any further competition. So it could be a competitive strategy there. But nonetheless, the founders of WhatsApp became very rich overnight. So everyone wants to do such a disruption. When we talk about disrupting the world, we talk about Airbnb, Uber, Zipcar, Amazon. You know what? To me, it means actually troublemaking, disorderly, disturbing, unsettling, and upsetting. We all say, I mean, there's a lot of debate that social media has perhaps created a lot of problems. I mean, it is helping, but it has also created a lot of ills. Social media could be used for example, for connected education, connected health, improve the lives of people, well-being, but it has been used for other reasons as well. And when what happens is, for example, Airbnb, there's been many small businesses, many small travel businesses have gone out of business as a result of Airbnb. Okay, and just recently in London, there was a huge protest from the local black cabs against Uber, right? Because what happens is, though it creates social goods, and all these things are quite innovative, perhaps create jobs, and as I was saying earlier, some of them perhaps go on to do some philanthropy. eBay, the Omidyar Foundation comes out of eBay, right? And they do philanthropy, they engage in venture philanthropy, but it can deplete public education and health and displaces loyal legacy suppliers, okay, putting many people out of work actually. So the digital elitism, what does it really say? I mean, as I was saying earlier, the only probably systemic change that we brought in the society today is microfinance. But look at education. The education problem hasn't been solved. A lot of people, most people in the world don't get quality education. If you want to be in a private school, or you want to go to the best or the top schools, you have to have rich parents, right? So that is creating digital elitism as well, because a lot of poor people and a lot of uh, children who don't go to the top schools, don't go to the highest quality schools, are deprived of digital education. So there's a bit of digital divide over there, and it is created as, perhaps you could argue that it's being created as a result of entrepreneurship. And though top 1% keep getting richer, and this is one more argument, and the bottom 20% getting poorer, and what it is therefore doing is it's creating a vicious cycle of loss of ambition, success and worth among the bottom of the pyramid. It can be a motivator sometimes, and when you see your next door neighbor climb up, you want to do as well. But I do feel that we need to ignite aspiration, but at the same time, we need to cure inequality and nepotism. entrepreneurship is a non-governmental, non-redistributive, it's not like you're doling out money from government benefit schemes. It's a non-redistributive approach to address income inequality. It can create jobs by growing the pie. You can increase industries, you can grow jobs, you can create more decent jobs that pay more. But there is an issue here. Startups need talent, but where is talent heading to? I'm actually critically trying to and fro argue myself. I'm creating this as a narrative here. I'm saying, look, there is another issue here. Where do most people head to now? Where is talent heading to? They all want to work in Deloitte's and KPMG's, right? It's heading to large professional services in finance and consulting. And they provide services to the most mature companies. So what is happening is we are investing a ton on the icing and we are shrinking the cake. Okay, we are not growing the talent pool into entrepreneurship. Okay, so you could create more entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs create other entrepreneurs, right? So you could create more entrepreneurs by working in a growth firm rather than a large professional services firm. Okay. So again, the argument for talent is very critical here when it comes to entrepreneurship. Just conscious of the time, guys. Okay, so this is from Deloitte, an interesting one. So you've all probably heard about social entrepreneurship and social enterprise, but it seems like even this whole notion of social enterprise seems to have been hijacked by Deloitte. Okay, so what is Deloitte saying? Deloitte is saying, look, there's a greater expectation of business leaders to respond publicly to society's biggest issues such as income inequality, healthcare, and diversity. Okay, and it is also suggesting that the growing power of the individual to share their messages and beliefs, because we live in a digital world. It's all this, we can voice our opinion in social media, so we could share our beliefs with the market using social media to bring that message to life and create a powerful impact. Okay, and Deloitte is also saying, look, there's increasing calls for organizations in managing technology and its impacts on jobs and data privacy. Is that really happening? I'm not very sure about it. But again, what it is coming back to, the entire thing is coming back to, it's coming back to the C-suite, and it's focusing a lot on leadership. And it says, look, there's an urgent awareness is required in the C-suite, evidenced by growing calls for businesses to make a profound and positive impact on society as a whole. But I feel this is all interesting, but only last week there was a whole debate about Elon Musk wanting a $56 payout in the next 10 years. That's a lot of money, $56 billion. Of course, the shareholders have now agreed that if Tesla is taken to a 650 billion market cap, that almost like near 650 is almost near a trillion, then Elon Musk will get 56 billion. Okay, so I still find that that 56 billion, I just can't digest it. I just feel that's gross inequality in itself. Where is the impact on society as a whole? If only all the rich people could give their money away, the world would be a very better place, right? So it talks about the symphonic C-suite and all the leaders in different industries coming together, but I'm struggling to understand whether this will create real impact in the world. Okay, I'm just conscious of time. I'll just go on for another 5 minutes and then I'll stop. Okay, I had a few more slides, but we'll see if I can use them in the discussions. Okay.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. So social enterprise. Okay, I've just said Deloitte is hijacking the whole notion of social enterprise. But what is social enterprise? Is it socialism or social capitalism, or is there a new thing like entrepreneurial socialism? Entrepreneur and socialist. Usually in the same, if they're in the same sentence, they actually describe polar opposites. Entrepreneurs think socialism is the devil that kills ambition. I've just said earlier that we need ambition to be an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurs therefore think socialism is the devil that kills ambition. And socialists see entrepreneurs as vehicles of capitalism. And socialism relies on a strong state to provide. But if that were to happen, and again, this is again an argument I'm making, is if that had to happen, we need an economy that's bolstered by trade and investment. But who's going to do that trade and investment? It's going to be the entrepreneurs, right? And with entrepreneurs who create new, the new firms and jobs, there is employment, there is income, and that requires ambition and the entrepreneur, right? And when an entrepreneur takes the elevator and climbs high, you're not going to put an obstacle in between the doors and stop the elevator from going down. So true entrepreneurial socialism will be if the entrepreneur allowed the lift to go down, right, and bring other people up. So while a socialist should object to global corporations that are unaccountable to their customers, and organizations that blacklist union members, bully small businesses, and have more wealth and power than entire countries. And socialists should object to it, right? But socialists should also support any enterprise that offers a useful product or service, provides decent jobs, respects labor laws and workers' rights, and pays back to society via a system of taxation. And also supports, again, this is one point I want to make, is we should support any organizations that support and care for the environment, either renewable energy. There's a whole lot of issue these days around fracking and getting oil from Canadian tar sands, and it's actually creating loss of livelihoods for a lot of indigenous people. The same thing happened in Orissa. Vedanta wanted to go and mine in Orissa. Of course, it was really bad for the livelihoods of indigenous people, and and the same thing is happening in everywhere across the world. Even in Nigeria, it has happened. A lot of tribals' livelihoods have been displaced as a result of Chevron and Shell's strategies. And when Chevron and Shell have gone into Nigeria, they haven't used the best technology, and there's oil leaking everywhere, and it has polluted a lot of land and agricultural, particularly agricultural land, and a lot of forests have been decimated as a result of the practices. Okay. So we should oppose those things, but we should support any enterprises that care for the environment. So if there's a renewable energy startup, I think we should support it. So while socialists support public ownership of essential national services such as energy, water, health, education, and transport, so they can be run in the interests of people, and a non-profit, private enterprise is important for a healthy economy. Okay, so entrepreneurship should be supported, and I think we could have a healthy balance of socialism and entrepreneurialism, in my opinion. And I'll just do one last bit, and I'll stop here. And I just want to understand if sustainable capitalism, is it possible? This is Generation Foundation and Generation Investment Management Company. These are Al Gore's firms, ex-Vice President of the United States, and it focuses on long-term financial returns through sustainable projects in things like smart mobility, sustainable consumption, energy innovation, industrial efficiency, financial innovation, health and well-being, all grand challenges and important issues to think about. The fund is about 12 billion, small by traditional venture capital standards, but rather than equate social impact projects with poor returns, what this firm is trying to do is encourage investors to take a long view on sustainability initiatives. Many investors, they just want quick returns, and they become used to the fast rise of companies like Facebook, right? but social investment requires more patience to acquire similar level of success. Now, these businesses, sustainable businesses who care for the environment and society, they face lots of obstacles, infrastructure obstacles, bureaucratic obstacles, regulatory burdens that others simply haven't addressed. Other startups like Facebook. Only now that we're talking about a lot of rules and laws around data privacy, but they started off when these regulations were pretty weak, right? Um, Interesting, but I see an issue here. And I was looking at Generation Foundations, who are one of their investees, and it happens to be Solar City. Uh, Solar City, interesting startup. They wanted to disrupt the renewable energy market. Primarily, they were installing loads of solar panels across the US. Um, and Generation Investment was one of the investors in this company. And who's the new investor? Okay, who owns Solar City? It is Tesla, right? So in 2016, Solar City was in a bit of problem. They had to cut 20% of the jobs. We are saying, okay, you have to be good to your employees. You can't, and of course the founders did take a pay cut. But whom did they go to for support? They went to Elon Musk, and he invested 2.6 billion dollars and bought Solar City. But there is an issue here. Why did he bring Solar? Why did he buy Solar City? Because he could use something called as Powerwall home recharging. Okay, so that is provide Solar City's batteries with a program that they have created called Powerwall with Tesla's batteries. And I see a problem with Tesla's batteries. And I see that Tesla has created a too big to fail lithium ion industry in the entire world. And lithium is not the most sustainable battery technology. I mean, lithium has reached its capacity, and we have created a too big to fail lithium industry, and we have to go and extract it from the salt flats in Bolivia, which is a, a very fabulous eco place in the world, and we're going to destroy it to dig all our lithium for our batteries from there. There are other battery technologies that might not see a daylight soon because Elon Musk, in my opinion, has created a too big to fail lithium ion industry. Okay, so I think I've talked enough. I'll stop there, and any other thoughts I have, I'll take up in the discussions. Okay. Sushil?
Yes. Great insights, Dr. Sunil. You talked about multiple aspects. In fact, however, for me, I strongly registered the inequality, nepotism, and environmental angle. There are something I
Yeah.
consider definitely crucial.
Yeah.
Our students have come up with a couple of questions. So
Sure.
Ashutosh asks, the COVID situation has forced good brands or companies to shut down and go out of
Yeah.
business. For a young entrepreneur, this may add on to the uncertainty of starting a new entrepreneurial venture. What will be your suggestion on this situation?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and this is what I say is um, all entrepreneurs need to be social. And I think for me, the COVID situation, what it is saying is, look, there are lots of societal problems to be solved, and perhaps what has happened is there's been a lot of debates about social entrepreneurship, and perhaps social entrepreneurship has become a distraction to an extent. And given the pressing times, all entrepreneurs have to be social. But do all entrepreneurs have to scale big businesses and grow them? No. And I feel that we need local solutions. Okay, we need we need clones of solutions everywhere across the world, and not every entrepreneur has to have a universal solution for every problem. And I think those local problems offer interesting opportunities for entrepreneurs. Okay, COVID has forced good brands or companies to shut down and go out of business. But we have other issues now. We have the issue of local food systems. Local food systems are supposed to be buffer in times of emergencies. And until the COVID times, perhaps we hadn't thought too much about local food systems across the world. And local food systems present immense opportunities. And again, where what is happening is that there are other things that entrepreneurs could do to actually increase the entrepreneurial pool and coming together. You don't need to scale up businesses, but just like um, Alcoholics Anonymous, people come and solve and each other's problems. Entrepreneurship is a lonely battle, and if we could create a network of entrepreneurs who all come together, it is difficult times, but who could feed off each other. It's not, I'm not talking about tech hubs. I'm not talking about those cool tech hubs like T Hub in Telangana. I'm saying, look, um, these are difficult times. There are interesting problems to be solved. If we don't share each other, how are we going to build clones to actually solve local problems? And I feel that social entrepreneurship could solve a lot of local issues.
Good, great. Thank you, Dr. Sunil. So there is another question. Soma is asking a question about sharing economy and greater equality. So she's
Yeah.
asking, sharing economy is a path towards achieving economic prosperity within Earth's natural limit, whereas a debate surrounds the fact that it is a concept adopted by Airbnb, Zipcar, etc., purely to tap commercial interests.
Yeah.
Is sharing economy a rising concern for capitalist companies or far from reorienting the economy towards greater equality?
Okay, that's a very good point again. A really good point. And okay, so what has happened is there is an organization, you may have heard about it, called the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, who's trying to propagate this idea of a circular economy. An interesting one, and a part of the circular economy is actually the sharing economy, and you've given a few examples there, Airbnb and Zipcar and everything. An interesting one, and where you pool resources together, and we do talk about things like multimodal transport. Not everyone has to own a car, and perhaps in the future, not everyone will own a car. And when we have multimodal transport, you might cycle a little bit, drive an electric car at distance, then take on the public transit system like the metro train, get off, take a bicycle, rented bicycle, and then go off to your work. Okay, so that's an interesting circular economy concept, and that's about smart mobility. So we might see those changes in the future to come. But I have an issue here, which is when we created the sharing economy, just like Uber, when I'm in a Uber taxi, I speak to a lot of taxi drivers, and I ask them, where do you come from? They tell me, we were farmers. Okay, there was a water scarcity in our villages, and off season we come and we do Uber driving, and a lot of them don't, and a few of them I've spoken to don't even live. They sleep in the cars. Perhaps they might go back to their villages. Okay, so they are living very difficult lives, and I don't know what sort of health problems they might have as a result of continuously driving Uber cars. Okay, um, if at all we had focused on our villages, okay, if we had sort of worked towards better livelihoods, better agriculture, more sustainable agricultural practices, okay, again, more local food systems, okay, and if we had if we had supported livelihoods even of the tribals, okay, because they have their own indigenous way of living. In a lot of places we go and disrupt their livelihoods in order to run even Zipcar or whatever it is, all the taxis, you need fossil fuels, right? And the fossil fuels are going to come from fossil fuel industries, right? We haven't disrupted fossil fuel industries. Fossil fuel industries still go on to disrupt a lot of livelihoods of people. It's the fossil fuel industries which has resulted in the pesticides and chemical industries, which is disrupting again a lot of livelihoods and traditional ways of agriculture, right? So if you had focused on more sustainable livelihoods, better education in the rural villages, that migration wouldn't have happened in the first place. And because that migration has happened, okay, and what has happened is cities have become grossly unequal places where people middle and the elite who have good jobs, and they're living a great life, but then there are loads of people who are just living on the edge. So it's not leading to a greater equality, in my opinion.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So, in a sense, you also answered a question on circular economy, whether it is beneficial or not, because that was the next question.
Yeah,
There is one more question. Talib is asking, since you talked about social entrepreneurship and capitalism, but what can we as contributors to the economy do to maintain equity in the society?
okay. Um, again, what I want to say is, um, so social entrepreneurship. Again, what I want to say is a redundant concept. Okay, so um, and that's in my opinion, as I was saying earlier, it is perhaps a distraction. And there was an interesting one. I mean, acumen has this fundamental idea where what they say is they've been approached by corporations like Dow, and I know Dow was in Pune some time ago, and it was driven out of Pune because of the Union Carbide issue, right? So Acumen is saying, look, they've been approached by companies like Dow, and they give more money, and Dow gives more than money, it gives technical assistance. But they also believe, Acumen also believes, interestingly, okay, this is an interesting one, that small can be beautiful, and we need more local solutions. So what I'm seeing here is um, that a lot of companies who want to support the economy, to maintain equity in the society, are perhaps being hypocritical. Now I see the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I think, okay, they're doing great philanthropy. They're trying to reduce the inequality in the society. Okay, but what I do also see is Bill and Gates Foundation is investing in a company called as TerraPower, which is a nuclear energy company. Okay, so Gates is the chairman of TerraPower, right? Okay, and there is a problem there. We want all these venture philanthropy organizations to come and support the economy to maintain equity in the society, but it seems like they're being hypocritical in their own strategies. So that is where, as you rightly point out, we the citizens need to come out. And Ashoka has a model. Ashoka has this entire model of a hybrid value chain. Ashoka is supports social change and social entrepreneurs, and they have this model of a hybrid value chain where citizens work with businesses. And in fact, I've got a slide there, and I might just show that slide to you. In fact, it was my last slide. Okay. So they have this hybrid value chain model. I don't agree with all the elements of it, but um, what it does say is that you need to work with businesses to build resilient communities, um, and through financial literacy, and you could actually increase the full economic citizenship, and you can have both economic and social inclusion of citizens. We're not talking about charity, we're not talking about CSR. So what Ashoka is trying to say is all those CSR days and days of venture philanthropy are perhaps gone, and we need to focus more on citizens and businesses working together. And I did make the argument before, that of course it's not all about socialism. We need something called as entrepreneurial socialism. We also need private enterprise. I don't agree with everything here. It says it relies on disruptive innovations. Yes, HVC relies on disruptive innovations. I don't feel that we need to change the entire world, and I feel that we need more localized solutions. And it also says that these are built for large scale impact, which I again disagree with. So I disagree with a few things in the hybrid value chain model, but I do feel that um, that citizens and businesses can come together and have a healthy balance of socialism and entrepreneurialism.
That was a real great example, sir. There's one more question. It's about organic farming and sustainable
Okay.
farming. Do you think that organic farming and sustainable farming will become popular in the future, as it is must that more people should invest in it?
Organic farming and sustainable farming. Very good thoughts. Yeah, I mean, uh, uh, yes, organic farming. What we okay. So I've been last year to a few organic events when I was in India for a few days. In fact, when I was in Bangalore, I went to an OTG event, organic terrace gardening event and exhibition. So a lot of organic thing that is increasing in India, yes. But a lot of it is not up to the same standards that you would expect in the Western countries. So we have stricter standards about what organic is. The soil association standards. If you're an organic farm, you can't have a non-organic farm next door because you could still have contamination from the non-organic farm, and those standards are not very strict currently in India today. So you might get to get a soil association certification is pretty difficult. But having said that, what is becoming more important is this, and this is my personal opinion, is more than organic farming, we need biodiverse farming. Okay. What has happened as a result of our agricultural practices is we have killed a lot of biodiversity. The bee population has gone down, and interestingly, even large corporations like BASF are experimenting with bio. BASF is a chemical company, but I think they see the future in digital agriculture and agri-tech, and I do see them coming out of chemicals in maybe 30, 40 years. Um, that is my strategic vision for them. Um, but they're also interested in biodiverse farming, and there is this whole thing around agroforestry as well. And there's an interesting company in Bangalore. It's called Hosachiguru, and what Hosachiguru does is it is encouraging people in the city not to invest in concrete buildings, but invest in assets management in agroforestry, because that way we can conserve our biodiversity, we can conserve our bee population, butterfly population. We can preserve rare genetic species of plants. Okay, in a lot of the places we are getting rid of native species of wild plants and wildflowers which are beneficial to the native insect and bee population, and bringing in foreign plants which are not beneficial to the local insects. Again, they're great pollinators, they're great for agriculture, they're great for our forests, and we are bringing in practices which are perhaps not great for conserving the biodiversity. It's not just about organic, it's we need to maintain biodiversity.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Sunil. Because of the time constraint, we'll take one or two more questions. That's it.
Sure.
So Mayank is asking, how do new entrepreneurs with young startups get state-of-the-art technical know-how so as to compete with the established players?
Okay, that's a really good point. How do you get the technical know-how to compete with state-of-the-art established players? Well, my question is, I'm going to put a reverse question: is do we have to compete with the state-of-the-art established players? And as I was saying earlier, there are plenty of problems which are waiting to be solved. Because we don't go into those problems because we don't see quick economic returns. We perhaps, things like health, I was talking about, you could use technology to solve healthcare problems. Of course, not everyone has to make a vaccine. Of course, what has happened during COVID times is there is a vaccine rush. You don't have, not everyone has to invent a vaccine to solve public health problems or health problems. We could have digital health solutions to our health problems. In fact, one notion of entrepreneurs is entrepreneurs are the ones who have, as a result of reducing the cost and increasing the quality of things like food, clothing, shelter, whatever it is, entrepreneurs have increased the well-being in society. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, look, entrepreneurship is about improving the well-being of the society. It's about bringing a change in our society. If that's what entrepreneurship is about, it's not about competition. So if you start thinking in terms of competition, we're going to compete with we can't compete with the big established players. You won't solve people's problems. The main thing for you is to find a problem that is solvable, and then go about finding means. It doesn't have to be advanced technology all the time. Okay, you could use whatever technology is available. There's loads of technologies in the open source domain. There's a lot of literature that academics have written, and there's a lot of knowledge in the public domain that can be utilized to solve those problems. You don't have to go with just because these large companies have their own proprietary technologies doesn't mean that you lose out. There's so much written by academics and scientists in the public domain literature that can be used. Okay, the main thing is to find a problem to solve. Because entrepreneurs bring social change and benefit the society. And I feel, for a healthy entrepreneurial society, for a good, again, I come back to this point, for a good balance of socialism and entrepreneurialism, where you can create many clones of solving local problems. And I want to emphasize that, at least if one thing I want to emphasize in this lecture is that cloning of local solutions to local needs, adapting solutions to local needs, because every region, village will have their own unique problems, and we need to adapt solutions in different ways to every place. And I think if you can do that, then you would succeed. You don't have to compete with the established players.
Great. Thanks a lot, Dr. Sunil. That was definitely an enlightening and a deep session. A lot of insights we got. I request placement department to go ahead with the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of our director, Dr. Adya Sharma, our beloved faculty and staff, and our dear students, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Sunil for giving us the opportunity to showcase our innovative technologies
Thank you, Sandhya. Thank you.
connect with our students. I would like to extend my gratitude to all those who helped facilitate this session, especially Dr. Sushil, Dr. Ashutosh, and Ms. Deepa for their constant guidance, and the IT department for their continuous support. Lastly, I would like to thank each and every student for their active interest in this initiative and for cooperating with us. Thank you, and stay safe, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Sunil.
Thank you, Sushil, for this opportunity, and I hope everyone took something away from it. Thank you so much.
Certainly, sir. Certainly. Welcome, sir. Have a great day.
You too. Bye, everyone. Stay safe and healthy. Bye. Bye.